about the EPC. That your usual.
Somewhere over here, yeah. One of these two. We don't have assigned seats. We kind of.
It was all girls.
Right. All right, thank you so much. Welcome to the Carbondale Tree Board regular meeting, Thursday, March 20th. Yes, March 20th. And we are going to do our roll call. Dan?
Present.
Meredith?
Here.
Joanne? Me, present. Okay. Our consent agenda, we are going to look, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes. Do we have any comment on the minutes at this point from February?
It's the position of an apostrophe. You're talking about going to the other, talking about the other towns.
Joanne, is your mic on?
It is now.
you're-
I'm working on your behalf, Meredith, because there was a misplaced apostrophe.
I see.
Grammar.
Exactly. Okay, under action items, draft tree planting diagram. Carl presented an instructional diagram he created to assist crews on how to plant a tree to meet the town standards, but Carl feels it would assist him in as a field document for his inspections. He received inputs from other towns, comma, after the, or apostrophe, towns, TOWNS apostrophe, I believe. It's on
Okay,
page 2,
so
under action items.
no,
No, it says town, like our town, like one town, instead of the other towns.
possessive,
Plural
yeah,
towns.
a possessive apostrophe that she would like to have it removed.
And the other one, Carl feels it will assist him as a field document instead of in as a field document, same sentence. That's all I saw.
Okay, so any other requests? Okay, may we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And no one in our audience, so no public comment tonight. And let's go ahead and open it up. Who would like to present which member would like to present comments tonight?
So in April, there is a gathering of all the boards. I'm not sure the exact date. I'll let everybody know. They're gonna meet like they did last year. And that, but there's a nice article that was in the Soper Sun on 2/20/25 talking about boards, all different types of boards, advisory boards, quasi judicial boards, stuff like that. So you might find that interesting. I definitely will. I've given some of these to the town manager and to the town clerk, and I gave one to Ally. So it's just an interesting article. Read it at your leisure. I'm not going to go through it. It just describes what boards can do, what the individual's responsibilities are and stuff like that.
How can we find out the date? The town website?
Do you know when that is, Ally?
The open house?
Yeah, the open house for the boards.
I'm not sure if the date's actually been published. Was it published in that article yet?
No, this article doesn't relate to that.
Maybe
This
a
ju-
work session,
Yeah, so
which
there's
would be the 15th, once you've done your taxes.
say that again?
The 15th, the
It's a-
1st, the 8th, the 15th, the
It-
22nd are the dates in April.
It's an open house.
Tuesdays,
It's an
yes.
open house for the public to come to
Yes, I understand that.
find out about boards.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's not a board of trustees thing.
It's going to be separate. You know that for a fact.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, there's
All right.
there's going to be an open house gathering for
okay.
all people.
Yeah, we've done it
interested.
before.
Okay, but yeah, I don't think the dates have been,
Okay.
the
So
date
we-
has
we
been
need to-
released for that.
Keep an eye on when that date is.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
okay.
you guys, it'll happen well, it might happen before you guys meet next, but
Okay.
when it does, I'll send you all an email to let you
Oh,
know.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, Meredith, any
Yeah.
comments from you? Any tree board member comments?
Nope.
Okay, Joanne?
I've seen some vehicles. I don't know if these trees are on public right of way or if they're private, but trees parking or trees. Trucks, pickup trucks parking right onto these trees to get their truck butts out of the street. And I need to go and verify that those are not public right of way. If they are public right of way, how can we work to create some level of a barrier, even if it's hardwood cloth?
Do you want to,
Future reference.
do you have a location that you can?
One
provide?
specific one, parking into the tree, was on the south side of Garfield between Third and Fourth.
Does that ring a bell for you, Carl?
I just walked by there and I'm like, I gotta look again.
I'm sorry,
South-
I'm trying to get my presentation loaded up.
Joanne noticed that there is a commercial,
They're not commercial, they're just people's
oh, okay,
pickups,
but private vehicles that are
vehicles.
parked
parking onto the
potentially
trees.
on top of, close to trees or on the base of trees at Third, what was it? I'm sorry.
On Garfield, between Third and Fourth on the south side of the street. And I don't know if that's town tree or not. I walked by, like, really.
So behind the launch pad.
South side of the street.
Yeah.
Farther east, yes. That street, that
Yeah,
block,
okay.
yes. So something to be paying attention to.
Carl, is it something that we need to do, I mean, as volunteers, maybe do a little more vigilance for you or?
I mean, you could take some pictures.
Okay,
Yeah, and like email it to me
Okay,
and I can check it out.
all right.
okay.
Perfect.
Anything else? Okay. For myself, don't really have any comments. I've have been noticing that we're still kind of working on getting the lights down. So that's off the trees and kind of getting ready for the leafing out on the trees. So I noticed that that's an ongoing effort right now with the crews. Okay, well, let's move on. Okay, we are at our action items. And our first item is Aquatic Center Trees Discussion. And we have a memo that was attached to that, so. Can you tell us a little bit about the memo?
Okay, so. All right. So this memo basically is my review of the landscape plan for the pool that we looked at last time. These are my comments for that. So it has conditions, meaning things that I want to see, comments, and then comments is like recommendations, and then concerns or things that I'm concerned about. So just to start with the conditions, there's tree species changes required due to spacing issues in the northeast landscape bed. So in the bed to the northeast, they have 2 linden trees, which are classified as medium, and they're too close together as far as our spacing specs. So I'm saying we should put 2 small trees there instead of 2 lindens. And then we'd be good on our spacing. And the species that I'm recommending is a spring snow crab for one of them, and then an ivory silk Japanese tree lilac. And it's noted on the plan. If you look at the agenda, I have it noted in green. If you pull it up on your phone, so you can see that noted in green where I have it marked on the plan from last time. So that's the first thing, pretty straightforward. Second thing is conditions, say reduced size of chinkapin oak for planting from 7-inch to 2.5 to 3-inch caliper. Planting a tree in a 2.5 to 3-inch caliper range will establish more rapidly and adapt better to the site than a larger transplanted tree. That's pretty common, arborist, smaller trees do better. So that's my condition with that one. And that's the one that's the replacement for the large Siberian elm. And then another thing, so if you look at the plan, there's over by the Miners Memorial Rock, on the plan, they have 3 Japanese lilacs there right around the rock. And because we moved one of the locust trees over close to that area, we transplanted it, tree spaded it. I think that's going to be too close now. So I'm recommending that we put 2 shrubs over there. So there's 3 trees. So put 1 shrub on the end and a shrub in the middle, because that's also tight. And then we could leave the lilac that's more towards the east. And that would help us with, it's just getting tight over there.
Is there a final plan yet?
Well, that's the plan. We're reviewing the plan. So we could, amend some things on it.
Did you say
So,
this already?
this-
It's dated November.
I just want to state, this brings up a real problem. We are not seeing to scale plans. This totally blows it out of the water. We can't make any decisions based on
Well,
that.
the plan's in the agenda.
But it's not to scale.
It's 1 inch is 10 feet, but this is not correct. Because this is shrunk from a regular giant plant.
Okay.
And I have comments about, 2 pages of comments about these 2 pieces of paper.
So, yeah.
Do you want to revisit the next meeting and get better things printed out, or?
Yeah, well, I couldn't print out the whole thing because it crashed my computer,
Okay.
which I find mind-boggling because I work with large files every day. I could get page 1 and 2, and then after that, it crashed my computer. There's something wrong with those files.
Well, I have 2 pages of comments on what I saw here. And I'm not just addressing the trees. I'm addressing the plant material.
Okay.
So I asked Ally to make copies of all these, and I can read them if my writing is bad.
Wait, do you guys want me to finish
Yeah,
my
you can
comments?
finish that.
Or do you want
Finish,
to?
finish up.
Have you sent this? It was dated November, or dated March 17. But your memo letter to Eric. Is this gone out already?
Yes. It's for this meeting.
So he's received this document of your recommendations without us being involved in it, really. Besides a cursory discussion last time that I thought we were discussing this time.
That's what we're doing now.
But the letter's already gone to Eric is my point.
Well, that was Carl's comments to Eric.
Okay.
That's
As
just my
public
comments
works,
to Eric.
as
and
Okay,
town
to-
all
arborist.
righty. So we're creating new. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so basically, the last meeting, we all looked at the plan. That was so that you guys could see the plan and have time to look at it, right? And now what I'm doing is making my comments to that plan from the last meeting.
Okay.
And then I also want to hear more comments from you guys too. That's what we're trying to, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, it's my impression that this is the deal. And when I read it after, I didn't get these plans until the next day.
Okay,
And so that's where I'm writing all this from. And I thought, well, why am I even bothering when I saw this day? Because it's 3 days ago. So as long as we get another round of advisory on there.
yeah, I mean, that's the point.
Okay.
That's the point of this meeting. I'd like to hear feedback,
Okay,
or the next meeting too. We can
okay.
keep hearing more feedback on it.
No, I'm good to go.
Do you guys want me to keep going?
Oh, yeah.
No, memo?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
All right, so there's the tall shrubs in place of the ivory silk Japanese tree lilac, close to Myers Memorial. Let's went over that. Okay, so now comments. So for the northeast bed where I'm recommending, or really saying we should put 2 small trees because of spacing issues. We could consider creating a raised bed with a lip, and that would enable people, they could sit there when they're waiting for the bus, or maybe they're hanging out, waiting for someone at the pool. And then another thing that it can be good for is it'll raise the canopy of a smaller trees,
Yeah.
right? Because we're kind of limited with space, we have to put small trees there. So that's just recommendations, I don't know how that will work with, I'm not an engineer, I don't, that's just kind of some thoughts about that. Another kind of comment I have is, if you notice on the plan, if you look, there's the middle bed, which is where the pine tree used to be. And they have a linden there, but it's pretty far east in that bed. So I'm saying, we should try to shift it towards the center of the bed, just so it'll have its roots will have more space to grow in that bed, and it won't be as close to the hard surfaces. So that's but again, there may be some engineering things I don't know there happening underground, so that may not work. But just an idea there. And then concerns, as brought up in the last meeting, proximity of a proposed electric box to the preserved oak tree is a cause for concern.
Which oak tree?
So the preserved oak tree, I remember so I'll just let you guys know. If you look at the plan, it's kind of hard to tell where the oak tree is on it, but there's an electrical box that's close to that oak tree that was bringing up concerns for me, right? Because that's a preserved tree currently, right? So that brought up some alarm bells. Let's see. And then, of course, there's the trees along 7th Street. There's a Siberian elm. There's 2 Siberian elms, really. They're kind of grown together. A crabapple and an ash tree. And because of the sidewalk, and then there's going to be handicap parking. And this was brought up in the last meeting. At the time of this memo, I'm working on a memo to really analyze those situations. I can give you an update on what I've found out so far. I spoke to Dave from AD Miller about the electrical box that's close to the oak tree, and he informed me that the power from that is going to go under the street, and it's going to pop up into that box. So they're going to directionally bore it. He seems to think we can shift it north, shouldn't have any issues shifting it north. So, and really the best thing we could do for that is just shift it further away from the tree, right?
Yeah.
Because it's about a 13-inch diameter tree. Some people could say, well, okay, for every inch of diameter, you want to be that many feet away from it. So if we shift it more north, it's going to be well out of 13 feet away from it. And it sounds like that's possible. So that's the best case scenario for that. There's also, there will be a concrete pad for that. He says it will go down about 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches. So it doesn't have to be super deep. But again, if it's shifted away, it shouldn't have a big impact on roots. So that would be best case scenario. As far as the trees along 7th, we looked at that together and we were able to get an idea of where the sidewalk's going to be. The ash tree, it's kind of on a slope and they're going to have to put a curb in, and then the sidewalk is going to come up. So actually with the slope and the fact that the sidewalk has to come up, again, the digging's not probably going to be super deep there. So there might be some impacts, but it's probably not going to be too bad. And then for the crabapple, that one, again, it shouldn't be too impacted. And crabapples are pretty resilient. Now, the one that we might have some issues with are the Siberian elms, the two that are growing together. Now, what's interesting about those is it's already close to the tarmac or the asphalt there, right?
And a dry well.
Right, and a dry well. It's already close to that. So there, as far as, I think we all know that that wouldn't be our first tree to preserve, of course, right? But when looking at it and you can see the buttress roots coming off of it, there may not be a lot of roots over there. That's the one that could go either way at this point. I still want to do more analysis on that one.
Okay.
That one's, I'm not sure about. So that's the update on that. But I'm working on a memo for that as well. So next on the memo, so Siberian elm tree replacement. So again, we want a 2.5 to 3 inch range caliber tree shall be planted for the replacement. That's what we want. Okay, so this talks about that. Now, there's some things that we could look at in that area. I had some recommendations. I said improving the size of future area for roots to grow for the replacement trees should be strongly considered. An estimate for the minimum size of rooting space for a large tree species is 2,700 cubic feet, or example,
Open.
30 by 3 feet deep. And this is for the replacement where the Siberian elm is. So this could likely be accomplished by using underground cells to give root space below hard surfaces. Although the ditch pipe may make this difficult, but I think it's worth investigating for that zone just to give whatever future tree there more root space. So there's, different systems of cells that can go underneath hard surfaces and allow roots to go underneath it and not, give them space, but not damage the sidewalk or bricks or whatever it is. So I think that's something we should consider. Again, because of the ditch, I don't know the engineering of how that would work, but I think it's something to consider, because if we do want a big tree back in that zone, it needs a lot of root space.
So I guess my question is, how much farther is that tree from the street than that Siberian elm was?
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Because that Siberian elm was right up on the street.
Right.
So if we're gonna have a sidewalk, that the sidewalk's actually going right over where the Siberian elm was. And so it would appear that oak tree is gonna be placed back further away from the street, right?
Yeah, they're showing it right. There's the X that's hard to see.
It looks like, from what I'm seeing here, it's pretty much pretty close to where the other one was, from what I can see. So you're saying we want it further.
Yeah.
Further in. See, that's interesting because I'm looking at it and there's the ditch and the pipe there. So there's probably a reason why it's on
Right.
that side of it because of the ditch pipe. So I'm not sure how much more we could move it east.
There's two pipes there.
Okay.
There's one that keeps going north. And then there's one that branches off right there and goes underneath 7th Street and goes over across the street where the ditch opens up again, where that Russian olive is. So there's actually kind of a thing there. And, and I had mentioned that to Kevin too, that, it's just not a great place to plant a tree again. He said that the new pipes that they're using aren't like the old pipes where they're sealed. They're not, the roots aren't cast iron. They're mostly PVC now and stuff. So they aren't cast iron where the roots are working their way into an opening. And he said, and they've planned it that way, that they aren't getting root intrusions into the replacement pipes. So.
I didn't even rethink that more than.
Yeah. So.
But I still think.
Yeah.
If we look at it this way, there was not a 6-foot planting strip there before. Our minimum planting strip in town is 6 feet. If that's the case, that tree can't go there. I think we just need to play hardball with that one.
So you're saying 6, say that again?
Our minimum planting strip in town is 6 feet.
Okay.
There's not a 6-foot planting strip there. So I think that we need to say, no, the tree can't go in that spot. It has to go on the other side of the sidewalk or the ditch.
Yeah, that would be something to look into.
Right.
I don't know if, yeah, we could look at options of shifting it around. I just don't, because of the pipe. Yeah,
Right.
That's something to look at.
Going to impinge on the growth of the tree. I have another question about that. Are there plans for this ditch to ever be closed in our lifetime?
I don't know.
That's something worth looking at. Because if you do that and you pipe it, you're going to cut off the water supply for a lot of this. So that's a question that needs to be
True.
answered in, say, a 10-year plan. I know a lot of ditches are being closed in town, and it's lovely to have it open. It's a great amenity, but that doesn't mean anything.
Where are the ditches being closed in town?
Oh, there used to be open ditches all along
Well,
Third
used to be,
Street.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
are
they've closed
there
them.
current plans?
That's what I'm asking. Are there
Oh,
plans
okay.
for them?
Okay.
You know, this
I
whole
mean,
water conservation thing.
I've seen some work
double-edged.
over on Euclid between 2nd and 3rd. And that was some reconstruction of the, the inflow and outflow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't clear. I walked by there and it looked like the ditches were remaining open, but the culvert was going,
Under the.
Yeah,
being
and the pipe
replaced
too,
under the
and the
street,
pipe,
but
yeah.
it didn't look
Mhm.
like the ditches were being closed yet.
No.
But other
mm-mm.
ditches have been closed.
In the past.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
many.
Yeah.
The ditch that goes, the ditch that flows to the north on 7th, that closed. Used to be
Yes,
open over by
yes,
where
and that was all a part of
689 was.
Like development though, right? With housing development.
No, it's the north side of
They
7th and
closed the
Main.
ditches before they put in residents, like
No,
There was
homes.
no
No,
residence
there's
there. It's
nothing
where
there.
689 building
Right,
is.
right.
And it used to be an open ditch and now it's closed.
Okay, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to get a timeline.
I don't know why.
It goes
To my knowledge, there's been no discussion
Okay.
recently. There's
Trying to
no
set a
master plan
timeline on,
to cover
you know.
ditches. And I'm pretty sure in the Soper's Park area, or as much as that sort of contributes to the aesthetic of that park,
Yeah.
that I don't think that's something
Okay.
that
But,
that anybody's
it is
been
it is
putting out
worth
there.
Asking.
Mhm.
And I say that from both the perspective of the board as well as sort of some larger water issues that we've talked about. So that hasn't really come up. I wouldn't worry about it.
I guess though, too, my question, like those Siberian elms that are close to the handicap parking, Carl, how does the sidewalk impact those?
Well, yeah, that's further what I need to look into. Because like with the aspen and crabapple, I think those are gonna be okay because the sidewalks, it's gonna be curb and it's gonna be raised up. I don't think those two are gonna be too impacted, but
See,
those
what-
on the corner, I don't know. I need to look further into those.
You
Those
see,
are on the edge.
From what I can remember from seeing that plan is the sidewalk runs right along the street. There's no planting strip. There's nothing there. The curb comes up and the sidewalk's there. So, you know, and we don't want that tree to, sidewalk's gonna be what?
It's gonna go in 5 feet.
5 feet wide?
Yeah,
Okay, so sidewalk's 5 feet. That means that the tree would be right up against the sidewalk.
well, I measured it. It's gonna be about 6 feet away from that Siberian elm. Like on the west side, but on the south side, it's gonna be really close, but it's already really close, right? So that's the one obviously I have concern about.
Right.
But the thing that's interesting is it would be, I don't have, I can't see underground. So we
Right.
don't know how many roots are in those areas because there's that dry well, right?
Right.
So there may not be a lot of,
Right next to the bridge.
what was that?
Is this the dry well? Is this a dry well here next to the bridge or is it dry well in the street?
Yeah, it's in the street, next to 7th. So that one, yeah, needs more investigation. Obviously, we don't want to get into a situation where we're gonna be cutting through big roots and it's just gonna fall over, right? Obviously.
The ones that are there, right.
Yeah, and it's 2 elms that are
Yeah,
grown
they're-
right next together. I mean, they're not in good shape, So anyhow, that's evolving. I'll keep you guys updated on that. Okay. I have a proposed solution for the replacement of the tree that was removed. So A.D. Miller has agreed to cover the cost of a 7-inch caliber Tinkman oak tree and its planting. So basically, I'm proposing figure out the cost of purchasing that tree and planting it, however many thousands of dollars that is. Now, obviously, we don't want to plant a big tree. So deduct the cost of a normal sized tree that we would want to plant from that total cost they've already agreed to pay. And then use the remaining money towards planting for other trees on the site or improving that site better for the tree replacement.
So the remainder would go into would it continue to be dedicated to the project?
Yeah, it could
Okay.
go into like, paying for a planting of some of the other trees
Okay, but
on the
dedicated to
same
that
project,
project,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
on the same project.
okay.
Yep. Because they've already agreed to that. So
Mhm.
whatever that amount is, we can just, whatever it is, $5,000, I don't know, $4,000,
Mhm.
deduct one tree from that. Whatever's left over, put it towards purchasing other trees and planting on the project or going towards underground cells, whatever it is, to make the site better just for that tree.
Yeah, are there any concerns about any type of project accountability if it doesn't go for like one line item, but kind of gets dispersed in multiple line items? Is that any kind of a issue?
I don't know yet. This
Okay.
is just kind of like my proposed solution.
Okay,
Eric's he's out of town this week, so I haven't gotten a response.
it's not too
Okay.
bureaucratic and if it's like one line item or if it has to
I
be
think one of the
dispersed.
confusing things about this is this. I sat down and talked with Eric, and that's what this memo is right here. This is what I talked to Eric about on March 6th. He was meeting that day with the landscape architects, okay, about the project. One of my comments to Carl in that is about the 7-inch tree, to Eric, about the 7-inch tree was, it's an Aspen solution to a Carbondale problem. People in Aspen that are building $10 million houses don't care if they spend $5,000 or $10,000 for a tree. And they'll hire landscape people to try and make that tree survive and stuff like that. I said, we can't do that in Carbondale. That's not what we're doing. So this memo went through, it's like what we talked at the last meeting. We could get 2 trees at 3-inch calipers and this, that, the other thing. I also told Eric, you could probably get 4. One of the comments that Eric made to me in that meeting, I said, you know, you got a couple Siberian elms along the ditch that are butting right up against the pool. And you could, you know, we could get those trees taken out and replace them possibly with
Exactly.
some more oaks and stuff. And Eric said to me, and he goes, yeah, the elms cause a lot of problem for the
Exactly.
pool with the filters and getting the seeds in the trees.
Represent.
So that was a nice thing for him to say. So like what you're bringing up, Carl, about possibly getting more trees on the site could possibly lead to us getting the Siberian elms, which I have previously stated that I feel in 5 to 10 years, we're going to cut those trees down anyway.
I have a question. Originally, this was supposed to be an 8-inch tree they were putting in. Now they're dealing down to a 7-inch tree. Let's deal back to an 8, which was the original plan,
I think I may have said 8 and I was just wrong.
but everything is now saying 7. It was
That's what
8 and now it's 7. And so
Yeah, it's 7 is
I'm
what they
looking
said.
I'm looking to get my money, okay? And I would like to be able to use it in other ways. So I'm down with that. And to your point, on my list of comments, it's exactly that. Who has walked down 4th Street and seen the tree that was now completed on the takedown on 4th between Euclid and Garfield? The big base on that thing? Are you still gonna pull that out? You gonna stump cut it, or what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, so I have to get locates to make sure there's no underground utilities.
Okay,
And then I'll contract to get it stump ground.
okay. Because my point on that, I just walked this site again this afternoon. And those trees, I have gone as a tree board member and as a civilian to meetings about this. And the condescension I received has been pretty extreme. They need to come out. We had a discussion about it in here. We had a discussion when Dan and I went before the town council the other day about how much of the budget gets spent on elm tree maintenance. They're senescent. They are in bad shape. They have poor form. They're taking up a lot of space. You can get a gauge on it by looking on 4th Street to see what happens. And to remove those and start fresh and put 2 large shade trees in there with a 3-inch caliper, you'd have the space, you'd grow it on, you would remove the issue with all the sidewalk and the curbing, you would make your money. And I'm here to say that I brought my Little Valley Wholesale Nursery catalog from 2024. 3-inch on B&B for their largest tree on these oak trees. Looked up in Fort Collins Nursery, same thing. So where they're talking about a 7 or 8-inch tree, it's not even in our purview of trees that are generally available. To Dan's point, this is how we go through these distant nurseries that are on the Front Range, and they still have to be transported. But I think that those elm trees, they need to come out. They're not serving any purpose. And another point that I have on here is there is no winter interest on this plan whatsoever. There's nothing green. We've removed a large pine tree. Let's not put any spruce trees in there, but to put a mixed little copse of trees on this area that you'd have some interest, I think would serve us well. And I think it would serve the landscape and the look of the pool. The reason that pool failed, substantial issues with their filtration system never being able to keep up. So if you remove, what do you think? 50% of the elm seed going in there? You're gonna have a fighting chance on your new mechanical equipment.
So you were saying about there should be more evergreen type of plants? Say that again?
There's no winter interest on this plan whatsoever.
Okay.
Zero.
Wait,
Those arborvitae,
Like,
No.
so you mean like things that will stay green during the
yes,
winter?
any kind of
Okay.
conifer.
Right.
And we lost a really big, beautiful conifer when this happened. So in addition to that, we should be getting a revised, we should be also getting it from the Forest Service because they're adjacent. When they did when they were abandoning sewer lines, et cetera, we should get an as-built plan for how the utilities have been in there before we really talk about where we're putting anything, to your point.
And
Okay.
I think that's what you were saying about that raised bed in that corner
Yeah, but get an as-built.
to see what but to see what's underneath, what's really underneath there.
Yeah, and that's just like an idea, but I don't know if it makes sense,
Well,
realistically.
it does to get because the trees are gonna be hard up against the sidewalk, so it does make
Right.
sense. Because, I mean, our recommendation always is 8 feet. That those lowest branches are gonna, wind up being 8 feet.
Right.
Above the ground, so people aren't doing jungle gyms on them and stuff. And that happened with the lindens along Main Street. All along Main Street, people were just grabbing branches and ripping them off the trees. So I think I think your idea there, that part is an idea really to look at. Just a couple things on the plantings. Obviously, none of this is going to take place until 2026. The two things. One, the Down Valley Jewish Group is really interested in paying for the landscape, the shrubs and flowers and stuff like that. Because there's a real question of, we talked at the last meeting. So I've gotten them in touch with Eric about that. The other thing is the trees themselves, I think is a absolute perfect Arbor Day planting thing that the town can really gather around and get an idea of what we're doing, why we're replanting trees on this site in the way that we are. And that, so I think that really should be a real plan for the Aquatic Center for an Arbor Day planting. And it may be that it would move a little sooner in the year than later, but I mean, the pool wouldn't open till, I forgot when the pool used to open.
Pool opens right around Memorial Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
so we got
after kids are out of
yeah,
school.
so we got a great time.
Yeah.
So we have a great opportunity to bring the whole town to see the whole site and see what's going on there.
2026.
Yes.
2026, yeah, because.
Yeah, they're
Pool's
far,
not gonna-
far from anything right now.
Yeah, because they're not open until that, but so do you have more points?
No, that's just like, that's my official, like, I looked at the plan.
I only remember 2 lindens, so there were 3 lindens there, right?
Well, yeah, they have 2 that were close together.
Right,
but
and
I'm
we
saying
mentioned that last
We don't
time.
want that. And then there's another one where the pine used to be, which I think just one tree there is fine. Unless we thought we want a different species than linden there.
No, I mean,
Man's point, do we want any more evergreen in that spot? And
but they're gonna go by the miners memorial if they go anywhere.
Well, the issue is having another evergreen there is because it's close to the street. And we
Gotcha.
don't like having,
We,
conifers close to streets.
yeah, we wouldn't recommend, we wouldn't advise on that. Well, because it's on the south side, if it was on the north side, it's a different story. And on the south side, it's gonna shade the street.
Are they putting the bus stop that they have slashed away from everybody who uses the bus? Is that going back in there as a formal place with a pad and a little shelter and a marker? It does not appear to be on here. I think it should be ID'd because that was part of their grand and glorious scheme that you could take a bus or ride a bicycle or walk there.
I feel, I just don't know. I will say that, you know, this landscape plan's from like a year ago.
Yeah.
So that could have evolved.
Okay,
Where that's gonna be, I don't know if it's, I mean, I just don't know. I could say
not
that it's gonna
ideal.
be where that north landscape bed is, because that's what it kind of looks like. But that could have evolved.
yeah,
I
there's,
don't know.
it's hard to tell with scale.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind slamming down this list I made today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, so I
Okay.
presented that. I'd like to hear input from
Okay.
everybody.
the scale is not to scale. We've discussed that, so we need to have actual plans that we can look at. I'd like to know how the plant list was generated. Fiesta forsythia is a zone 5. It's very prone to early freeze. So if you were looking for colorful yellow flower early in the year, you probably won't get it. The Thuya is the arbor vitae, which is along the fence that is adjacent to the Forest Service property. Deer food, it's a North American native to east of the Mississippi. It's not deer resistant. Is it overplanted on this plan? I don't know that that's a good choice. I would be looking more at a juniper, especially if you're an upright juniper, especially if you are looking at being a water efficient plan. This Deerville, which is like a false honeysuckle, also an East Coast native. Of these three pieces on this list, they are not listed in rather Bible-oriented book of Little Valley Wholesale Nursery. The proposed 7-foot oak is not a reasonable size. We've talked about that. More smaller trees. Remove the 2 Siberian elm trees that are just across the ditch. We could make that a nice big planting area. We could make it so that we're not having to worry about any kind of mower damage. Instead of 3 circle trees, plant them in a copse, maybe a good place for an evergreen to be in there for interest. You would be eliminating the cost to maintain those elms. We've discussed that that's a very expensive cost. We've had those conversations. I would like to know where their proposed plant material is being sourced because I'm not finding a lot of this available to our trade. There's no winter interest. Pines, junipers, lost one. I would like to know how the integrity of the ditch bank is going to be maintained once they put this planting in, because it's not clear on the plan how far along. It looks like it's going right up to the edge of the ditch. That's a grassy bank on that ditch right now, all the way down to where the water is. How are those beds going to be maintained? No planting until after the ditch is shut off or before it's turned on in April. Who will be charged with maintaining this? This is a town, is this a parks cost? Are they going to have the personnel to be able to do this? How will they be expected to negotiate in these areas? There's no pathway through this. They're very heavily planted. On their soils list, they're talking about a sandy loam, and I have yet to really find a sandy loam in town. Do you know if we have a sandy loam anywhere?
I don't know.
We've got an interface issue there. We'd like to know if there was a soil test done in these areas. They've got a bullet for tree wrap. This shouldn't be applied until the autumn, not at the time of planting. We need to be able to inspect that stem. Mulches. How are we going to be keeping these mulches in place in wind, in rain events? If you recall 2 years ago out here, all the mulch lifted far, far away from where it was. That's a labor issue. That's a material issue. It's a plant protection issue. And there's a little purple circular unit by the bridge on here, and I'd like to know what it is. Right by this little bridge, that it's not ID'd. Do you know what it is?
It's some,
Need to find
it's
out.
some type of. I don't know exactly what it is,
Okay.
so I'm not gonna say, yeah.
I'd like to know what it is. It's in purple. And then we have no irrigation plan here. Who's going to be responsible for the inspection, maintenance, repair of the irrigation up to the establishment of all this plant material and after its establishment? These are costs, these are labor issues.
Well, the irrigation plan still would apply to the trees too.
Exactly. But what are they? How are they going to be? I'd like to see this come back as a more,
So it's,
let's find the plants thing.
it's sounding like what we need to have come back to us, Carl, is something that is, more detailed, more comprehensive, something that, at least from our perspective, it's starting to make sense. I think we're seeing bits and pieces here, so we just have a lot of questions that keep coming up. And it's some of the questions are kind of the same. We've been talking about these for maybe 3 meetings or so. So I don't know if there's a way for us to kind of get these things pushed through and
Well,
get some answers back to
Well,
us.
it's helpful. It would be helpful to me if I could get like a list of comments from you guys, right? Well, I have Joanne's, and
Yeah,
then I can look over it, right? And I can go back to this plan and kind of be like, okay, these are some questions we have. And try to start working some of that stuff out.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if we need to go back to, we only have that one existing plan, which we're already finding some difficulties to, reading it appropriately. So how can we get a plan that is more accurate? So that I think then as we go through that plan, we can get those comments written down for
Mhm.
you and maybe say, okay, this is it. This is our work session on this plan, but it has to be an accurate plan.
Well, I think the plan is accurate, but it's just when it prints out, the scale is different, right? Because it's probably meant to be like this big if you print it out, right?
Yeah, the standard plan.
So that's why when it's that size, the scale doesn't look right. It's not it's not truly an inch, right?
No, it's not.
I think that there's some confusion there, but
Well, here's my point.
yeah.
We should be looking at this meeting around the table at the full-size plan.
Okay.
I think we need an accurate plan to, because our questions.
That was a requirement of us before we would even discuss a plan. And we used to require that they gave us 10 copies of that. So every member on the board had a full-scale plan. So we need to see a full-scale plan.
Okay. Because I know the town has been trying to do more things electronic, so that's probably why.
Well, I
they're
appreciate
not
that,
just
but they
printing
do
out,
have one full-scale plan because they are required to give that. All
Okay.
right?
So
Yeah. You bring up a good point. I mean, Carl brought up some great points about this. So I mean, one of the things that Carl brought up, that I brought up, Joanne and yourself, we'd like to see a more accurate plan, whether it's full size preferably, okay?
No, not preferably.
Required.
Bring us the required actual plan that we can do takeoffs with the scale.
An irrigation plan is separate, and that's required. 3, the placement of the replacement oak tree for the thing accurately described. So that we can tell if it's in the wrong in the wrong space. 4, I'm really concerned about this electrical box with the pad, and that for the remaining oak. uh, 5,
Hardscape, that cement
yeah, the
sidewalk and
hardscape,
stuff.
the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Where is that sidewalk going and how does it impact those two Siberian elms at the end and the dry well at the end too? Because if I'm looking at, if you're telling me that's a 5-foot sidewalk, that dry well's right in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah, they would have to redo that drywall,
Yeah,
obviously.
that's a big work. And that's
Yeah.
why I kept pushing for, maybe they need to move that handicap parking to where we would like to put the replacement tree and put the replacement tree down at the other end of there.
I think that's a really good idea because this whole thing that you're gonna restrict the roots on a large shade tree because you've got that joint on those culverts. I think that it's a wise move to get rid of that. And then you'd also have more visibility of the entrada of the building. I don't know that you really need the tree in there. I prefer to put the tree on that southwest side of there. I would love to see a grouping of trees in there that are more protected, that will provide more shade. You know, if you ever go to the mountain fair and you try to look to the west at 6 o'clock, you're blinded. So you'd be doing everybody a big service for
So I think
changing that
I
around.
think what we're definitely oriented towards providing constructive comment to you. I think though that because of the, there's certainly a degree of preciseness that we require for that kind of decision, that kind of commentary, that
Okay,
kind of
so-
decision making.
Okay. So you
And so-
guys want a big printed out
Mhm.
plan?
Yeah.
Because this is accurate. I can look at it on the computer and it's accurate.
You
But
mean
you
when you
guys,
zoom-
what I'm
Well-
heing is you guys want a big printed out
Well,
plan.
What I'm, what I'm,
so that you
what I
can-
think is,
It's accurate to the point that we can't tell where the remaining oak tree is.
Okay, all right.
So that's not accurate. It's not a,
Well, it's on
not-
there.
That's not like a plan I've reviewed before. That is a
Okay.
very poor landscape plan, in my opinion.
So where's Elmo plan?
Yeah, it's,
look really hard to find that X and mark it up for yourself.
So I just want to make sure that we're all using our time.
I agree.
I'm moving on from here. I'm sure I can get a bigger plan. I should be able the town, I don't think we have a plotter. I don't think we can print that big, but
No.
I'm sure I can get it printed, but,
Their
Um,
owner's rep should provide it to us.
Yes.
well, and Eric maybe has a bigger one. I just,
They got a
just-
copy and they get
yeah.
it made, or
I tell you what,
they
I'm-
have only for graphics to get it.
Can I would like us to not talk over each other. I feel like at this meeting, there's a lot of folks interrupting a lot of other folks. And just as a representative of the board, it's really important that meetings occur and we let each other speak and complete their sentences. And it's not me putting my foot down, it's just, we've actually had a lot of discussions amongst the board about how commissions are run and we value everybody's work tremendously, we do. Some meetings, and certainly not just this one, but certainly other folks we've had some of those concerns. And so I'm just gonna make a simple request that we let people finish their sentences and give them time and space to finish a sentence before we
yeah. And
offer
what
our
I'm
thing.
looking for too is I'm looking for a summarization. We've spent, probably a good half hour on this. We've spent, 2 or 3 meetings saying very similar things. And so I'm looking for this group to try to give some kind of
That would-
summary
yes.
points to Carl here, because we're asking him for something. How can we summarize this so that he can respond? And what I'm hearing is that, Carl, we need a big printout. Needs something that is
Yep.
determined to be accurate and gives a degree of visibility, a degree of conceptualization that allows, some more precise commentary. I think that's, if you feel like that is doable, let us know.
What's
Um,
supposed to be,
Uh,
I'm
we-
sorry, I
we-
have to interrupt again.
Okay,
It's required by the town. Okay, so somehow we're getting sandbagged. That's one of my views on this, okay? We've seen the same stuff, and when we were given a presentation by the landscape architects a year ago, we got the same sandbag. There's something wrong here. And I will state that I was at the last Board of Trustees meeting, and you guys are having problem getting costs given to you in a direct manner, right, Ross?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I don't
And I
disagree at
think
all.
we've got the same problem.
yeah.
I think we got the same problem right
There
here.
are concerns across the board
Yeah.
with this project.
And we've got the same
So-
problem right here.
So this is, I think this is a valid observation. And it can happen. There can be this urgency that is coming from contractors like, okay, just put it in front, see if they'll, sign it off and walk away. This board is requesting, we want to be more precise. And we've said, this is what we need as a resource to do our due diligence. And it's frustrating, like it or not, it's not going to work on an electronic, laptop or whatever. So that's what we're asking for, and we're hoping it can be delivered.
I'll make one last comment, though. The plan that I see is the concept is better than what I thought it would be. And we have some reservations, obviously, but overall, I think it's something that we can make good, like Lisa says, good constructive comments about. And I think that what Carl ran through the plan and told us really pointed out some things that we should have been aware of at the first meeting about this plan. So that's, and that, but overall, I think the idea is great. And the electrical box is a surprise now, but I think it's, you've pointed out that is, we can take, the town can do something that makes sure that doesn't interfere with that tree.
Okay.
So that's great, but I think that we need to support, to be able to put in a memo that is an advisory memo that obviously goes to you and to Kevin, Public Works, and to the Board of Trustees, that clearly, like we've all talked about, states what we see with this project.
Have we summarized sufficiently for Carl on this item?
Carl, could I get or just ask a question, because this
Yes.
is something that's come up in the last couple of meetings.
Yes.
The sort of on the larger scale of just a lot of plantings, looks like it is a lot of maintenance. Is it something that you look at and see the need for more staff or more time than you anticipated, or that maybe Eric has anticipated? Is that a concern that you see looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. My recommendation to Eric on this would be to hire someone to just do the work in these beds, and not have town staff do it, particularly
Gotcha.
for like the first 3 years. Really just hire a contractor to come in and keep it up at least the first 3 years while all the plant material is getting established. And then after that, we might be able to have town staff help some, or maybe just always have it contracted.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. Yeah.
Right. Have we summarized? Can we move on to our next agenda item? Okay. Carl, it looks like you were able to give us a analysis of the
Ooh.
trees
Boy.
You know,
in grades.
to be honest with you guys, I'm not able to get my PowerPoint loaded up for this, and it might just be better if we just do this the next meeting. I mean, I can
would-
verbally talk
Yeah,
about it.
I would go for that.
but-
We're already,
I think
Yeah.
we're pretty much through the meeting.
Yep.
And
okay,
it's just not going to help us to not have this PowerPoint working.
okay.
So forgive me for that.
Just a brief
I can
item.
do like my, update. arborist report,
Okay.
things like that, but.
When you're looking at the trees and grates and you're looking at the downtown issue, are we going to be able to coordinate that with Chacos Park to get a more cohesive look at things? No, because it's not planned yet.
Right.
Okay. Just think that there's some interface there. And I didn't see that, so I was looking at how we could
Well,
meld that
yeah,
together.
part of my recommendation for the trees and grates, like, as we're looking into it, and we don't have to feel like we have to be in a rush on this either. Areas like Chacos Park and like also the development that might be happening around Thunder River Theater in that zone. I think whatever happens to trees and grates there should be kind of built into the planning for the park or for that other development and factored into that and how it relates to it.
Oh.
That's my thought on that.
So when you mentioned Thunder River, there's one thing I noticed, they have another bus stop there on 6th Street. And I saw where the buses ripped some branches off of those locust trees there. And it was funny, one day I was walking over to town hall and I found this locust tree branch in Sopris Park. And I'm looking at it and I'm looking around and I went and looked at all the locust trees in Sopris Park and it wasn't off any of those trees. And I found where it had gotten, and I see they put some cones there so the buses aren't pulling completely in. Did you put those cones in or did the bus do that?
I didn't put the cones there, but yeah, Kevin mentioned that to me and I went and cut the little knob off of it.
Right. So, and this, again, goes back to this thing about our placement of the trees with the sidewalks. That all those trees, I would feel, were planted too close to the street. They weren't planted far enough back. So that, it's nice to have them there. They look great in the summertime and stuff, but vehicles are damaged trees. And some people are unaware that they've done it. So I'm done with it.
Are we discussing 5.2 or are we moving on? I did hear
Yeah,
Carl
I think-
ask that we move on.
Yeah,
We'll move on.
Yeah. I'll
Okay,
do
so
that presentation.
Then I'd
next
like to
time.
move us on to the next agenda item. It's should be very brief, 6.1. The application is in for Dandelion Day.
Great.
And so anyway, we're gonna have a space, so we should have the material ready. And I'm guessing we're gonna go ahead and do the tree drawing again for Dandelion Day. Carl, are we gonna have,
If you guys
trees.
want to,
yeah.
yeah.
And
If-
well,
if-
it's one thing that draws people. I will say last year, we just had a, kind of a logistical thing. I'd like it to be a little more organized than what we had last year. So if we're gonna do it, let's just make sure that, I would say 2 or 3 days before that there is a connection.
What day?
May, yeah.
10th Arbor Day.
Yeah. So it's the day before Mother's Day, yeah. So we just,
Meredith. Yep, she
so
dozed off.
just talk amongst
When's
yourselves.
Sam's graduation?
So
Say May 15th.
Thursday, the 15th.
Okay, so just, think to yourselves, I'll send an email out, maybe the week before. If we're organized and we're gonna do it, let's just make sure we got the material.
Get the
And
tickets. I
what
need
we're
to
gonna
get the
do,
tickets before
that kind of thing, yeah. Carl, do you have anything additional to report to us with your arborist report?
Yeah, just a few things. So yeah, the trees over on 4th, that tree work was completed. Obviously, we had talked about that a little bit. Yeah, just currently removing holiday lights. That's kind of like push. Last week I presented at the Tri-County Applicators Workshop just about EAB and chemical treatments. So that was good. That was an opportunity to just kind of educate about EAB and treatments. And then as I sent you guys an email, but so the town of Carbondale received a growth award from the Arbor Day Foundation. And that's something that basically, a town can apply for. And you get a certain amount of points for different things that you're doing. And if you get the right amount of points, then you get a growth award. So basically I submitted points for EAB planning. I submitted for tree planning, specifically like kind of looking at the sites and stuff like that. They require that. Spading of the locust tree from the pool, and also tree protection of the oak tree. So that's cool. Got a growth award.
Nice.
That's pretty fun. I think, it could be cool because in April, we'll have to do the Arbor Day proclamation. And the mayor always does that. Maybe at that time he can talk about the growth award when he's
Sure.
doing a proclamation. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Absolutely.
That could be a good way to kind of announce that. We can also put it in the town newsletter and stuff like that. And then I'm proposing that we do our Arbor Day celebration. It'll be May 3rd. That's the first Saturday in May. That's when we always do it, 10 a.m. And I'm proposing we do it over along Hendrick Drive and Greystone Drive. There's basically that green space and there's the ditch, and there's 2 ash trees that I removed in that area. And I'm proposing that that's where we do our Arbor Day planting. It's different species replacing those 2 trees. If you guys think that's good, I think that would be
How many trees?
2 trees. And yeah, I got a shipment, like 27 trees coming from the Colorado Tree Coalition sometime in April. We're kind of emailing back and forth. So that'll be coming in probably maybe the second week of April. So that'll be fun. Let's see, other updates. Let's see, today we started removing trees over on Keeter Road, ash trees, because there's just like a monoculture right there, right?
Man,
So
that's gonna be so sad.
So we took out about half of those trees. And then, so the next step there, which I had notified the HOA like a year ago, and I just didn't get anything done until now, but we let them know again. Didn't have anybody parked there, so that's good. So got those trees out. So next thing there, I had to do locates, stump grinds, and then look at the area and kind of decide how many more trees we can fit back in there. So that happened today. Other things kind of going on. So I've done planning for RVR, just EAB management out there. So I have their phase 1. I've gotten to RVR, which is the same first thing that we did here. It's just removing smaller ash trees. So they have that now. I'm coordinating with RVR, and they're going to start getting quotes on that. And figuring out how much they can start getting done on that. So that stuff's happening out there. RVR. And I think that's all I got.
On Keeter Grove, is it the main drag just to the west of 133 that you did the takeouts?
Mhm.
When you
Yep.
replace those trees, to the point about vehicles damaging trees, is there any chance you could put those trees out of the health strip and into at least that one large area where the turf is?
I don't know.
Would that be something you would entertain?
That it's probably not town right away. So there would
Okay.
have to be some agreement from the HOA.
Okay. It may be worth exploring. I mean, the damage that we're seeing is extreme, especially those scaffold branches.
And you're talking about from vehicles?
Yeah. Yeah, they get taller.
Yeah, and
Doors.
it was interesting because I was noticing today in that whole, there's a bunch of ash trees in that whole development,
Yeah.
like in
Mhm.
general. So I think it's good that we're getting some diversity in the right of way there, for sure. But I can look into that. I don't really know. if they would be interested in that at all.
We're just looking out for our town assets.
Yeah, that's one of those ones, when it was planned, it's like a little micro strip, right?
Right.
Like,
It's really small.
it must have met the very minimum.
Yeah.
Whenever it was built.
Well, thank you, Carl, for that. Do we have any other items? I don't see any other agenda items.
Arbor Day, Dandelion Day.
Yep.
Tickets.
Are we ready for adjournment?
I do want to make a point. If our next meeting will be April 17th, I believe. Do we need to request to get the proclamation going on before the meeting for the town on the 22nd, I believe it would be, to get the proclamation done?
Yeah, it would.
Do we need
Yeah,
to-
because May.
Can we
3rd
wait, or do we got to put it in play now?
No, we could do it then.
Okay,
Well,
As long as it
so Ally,
happens.
we're gonna be getting in touch with you about, or you or the clerk for have that be on the agenda for
Yes.
the Board of Trustees, that the mayor would make the Arbor Day proclamation. And then also what Carl mentioned about the award that we received from Arbor Day Foundation.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
thanks.
All right. Are we ready to?
just one
One
quick
more,
thing.
okay.
So as Meredith mentioned, May 15th, which is a meeting.
Is it- That's a graduation date for you?
That's a graduation date for
Okay.
my grandson with his master's degree from CSU. So
Yeah,
we will not be in town.
okay.
We can maybe just skip that meeting because we'll have the Arbor Day and Dandelion Day 2 weeks before.
We can talk about that
Yeah,
next
we,
meeting.
we can discuss that.
We may have
Okay,
all new members after the.
Right,
Alright.
in the April open house and that's great.
okay. Are we ready for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Turned on the meeting a little bit earlier.
That's okay. It's fun. I just